Transformers Rise of the Beasts is a movie in which I had very little interest, and one for which I had kind of middle bar expectations. But after tormentous tennis match back and forth planning, some friends and I finally decided Transformers Rise of the Beasts was a movie we were going to go see. And honestly, it surprised me. I genuinely had to look up other people's reactions to this movie to see if maybe I was broken. Turns out, we're all broken, because everyone loves this film, and deservingly so. Hello, my name is Ivan Montero, and thank you for joining me in my journey to watch every movie, and welcome to my spoiler-free review for Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Directed by Stephen Cable Jr., who is said to have been an actual fan of the original source material, takes a crack at the directorial helm and pretty much nails it in terms of big blockbuster superhero sci-fi summer movie for the whole family. Now that's a lot to throw at you, I know. But that's what this movie basically is. A tried and true, traditional, well-made sci-fi superhero summertime big blockbuster movie for the whole family, and not just clearly aimed for adults. I'm looking at you, Michael Bay. The movie really does feel like a fan made this film, and that's the best thing. Just think about how much the Russo brothers made their movies feel like comic book movies, and they're big Marvel Comics fans themselves before coming onto the MCU. Matt Reeves' Batman, whose story I hated, but whose visuals and framing I think are some of the best I've ever seen it, and the movie feels like a comic book movie come to freaking life. And he grew up reading Batman comics, so having a fan behind the camera really does make a difference when producing something. That's Transformers Rise of the Beasts for me. The kicker, I know none of the lore. I didn't even know Maximals were even a thing, or in fact that Transformers were aliens. It didn't click until this movie. Granted, I did watch Transformers 1 through 3, but I don't really remember them, but I watched them only because that was the thing to do, and we all did that. But those stories weren't really great. They were really, really cool to look at, but the stories kind of lacking, and some of the acting too. But that's where the fandom was divided, because you had the Michael Bay fan camp who loved the new, unnecessarily adult interpretation of a child's franchise, and then you had the so many versions of normality. But to at least some degree, they disliked this movie more so than they enjoyed it. I fit in neither camp. I am and was a freak. This film, however, almost feels separate from those movies, which I think is the point. I believe Bumblebee and this movie are intended to be somewhat of a soft reboot, now that Hasbro owns the film rights again. I personally haven't seen Bumblebee. I have always wanted to, but I just never really got around to it. But I plan on reacting to it now, because Bumblebee is said to be one of the better, if not the best, of the Transformers films. Again, I have not seen past the third film, and I don't remember a single thing in those movies, so I have no frame of reference, so I cannot say. But I can say we are going to react to them all, Filmer dudes, but we're saving that for later. Transformers Rise of the Beast feels warm and nostalgic, hitting all the right beats in making this a true superhero origin story of sorts for Anthony Ramos' character, Noah Diaz, who gets a lot to do in this film, and it's never a disappointment. Yo, I love Anthony Ramos so much. I am a huge fan. He's my Hispanic bro. He's out there representing, and I honestly think he's just a humongously just talented individual, and he deserves this win. His character is also just so darn likable. Dominique Fishback as Elena also gets a lot to do in this film, and she does a fantastic job as well. I felt her scenes and her character arc fit very naturally within the overall narrative of this film. She as a person is incredibly funny, and she does have some really well delivered comedic lines throughout this film, and she really does deliver. It's really well done. Pete Davidson as Mirage was unrecognizable. My friend leaned over and told me that was Pete Davidson, and I actually didn't believe him for a solid 5 minutes until I finally heard it. Pete Davidson, underneath the goofy grins, has giant range and real acting talent. Who knew he had voice talent as well? I honestly hope he does get more voice work, because this is one of the best voice works in his entire career, and it was very compelling, by the way. I was simply blown away. The story at times can get a little bit cheesy, and the pacing can get a little wonky here and there, but honestly, you're not there to criticize the movie, but you're just there to have a good time. At least I hope you're there to have a good time. Plus, these tiny little nitpicks don't really harm the overall story story, it just kind of makes a little bit of a whiplash. But hey, that's why you got your moviegoer's insurance, right? But the main thing to note here is that this is a family movie. So of course things are going to happen, especially in the third act, that, at least for someone like me who doesn't know the Transformers lore, made me say, did that really happen in the original franchise? Who cares? It's low-key though. This movie tries to be as wide as possible so that both adults and kids and teenagers in between can enjoy this and Transformers moving forward. And I think it mostly succeeded. Of course, sacrifices had to be made in the writing and the pacing, but honestly, I was just sucked in and just consumed by the visuals and the special effects. All of the lights and the colors were very pretty. The last nitpick I have is, for a movie called Rise of the Beasts, there's very little screen time with the Maximals. They do get their moment, and the moment is very cool, but you get it pretty early on, and you're like, let's buckle up, and you really do get a really fun ride, but it takes a hot minute to get back to the Maximals, in all honesty. I don't want anyone to be disappointed, because I heard some complaints about this, but if you're ignorant like me, you hardly noticed, and it barely bothered you at all. Oh, also, I'm not a fan of how flippant this franchise and superhero movies in general treat death and sacrifice on both sides, whether it's good or evil. This is a kids movie, so I give it a pass. I give whatever ridiculous thing that happens in this movie, and there's quite a few, I give them all passes. Mainly, again, it's for kids and it's just cool. But something specifically happens, but something specifically starts to happen where you're just like, again, and then you're just like, oh, that's interesting. Let's see what they do with this. And then they do the thing that they said, and you're just like, wow. I mean, fine. Well, wow. That's all I'll say. There is a mid-credit scene that you are not gonna wanna miss. Thankfully, you won't have to wait too long for the movie to end to see that, but the real treat, honestly, is right before the movie actually ends. I won't say what it is, but I was absolutely geeking out. I see you, Hasbro. I see you. And I say, let's go! All in all, Transformers Rise of the Beast takes a different direction than the original Michael Bay films, and that's for the better in my honest opinion, and this film truly delivers a fun time. Even in standard 2D, which is how I saw the movie, which was nice, but I low-key wish it was IMAX. But scheduling life is hard. Rise of the Beast is definitely geared more for the family, and definitely aimed for the die-hard fans. Though not quite perfect, this is still a very strong entry for the live-action Transformers franchise, and I give it an 8.8 out of 10. That was my spoiler-free review for Transformers Rise of the Beasts. If you've seen the movie, let me know in the comments below what you thought, and try to keep the comments spoiler-free. Otherwise, please mark it as a spoiler if you must. Let me know your rating down below. Be sure to check out my Patreon and my website. Both links are in the description below. My Sushi Meaty links are also in the description below, and I will see you next time. You've just been Montified.